Hey everyone, this is Stolik. First, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to my very first attempt at narrating a story online. I would really like to hear what you guys think, so feel free to use the comment section below. Any criticism is as much appreciated as compliments, as you guys can only help me to improve. So sit back, grab a snack, and pour yourself a glass of bubbly, and set your imagination free as we travel the roads of trepidation. This is just one of the many, many eerie, creepy, and paranormal things that have happened to me in my lifetime. But I think I should give you guys a little backstory so you can kind of understand my mindset and what kind of teenager that I was at the time of this incident. I was about 13 or 14 years old. As I was growing up, my stepfather would beat me on a regular basis. He was a drunk, but he was also in the Air Force, which is probably why he could control his drinking until he was off duty. It was like a regular job. He basically went to work early in the morning and got off in the afternoon. When he got home, my mom would drive him to whichever bar he had decided to call his second home. When he got back home from there in the evening, after hours of drinking, he would commence the ritual of beating me. Usually he would make up something I had done wrong, or I was apparently looking at him in a fucked up way. This would give him enough of an excuse in his mind to start hitting me. Usually a nice right hook to my face would start it off. This continued from the age of 5 until the age of 12 when he kicked me out of the house and sent me packing. He did this while pointing a shotgun at me, so I took it pretty seriously at the time. It wasn't easy being homeless at the age of 12, but I think it was better than the almost daily beatings I got. I grew up in Apple Valley, California, which at the time there was no public transportation. I have no idea if they have public transportation now or not. But this was around 1980 to 1981, and my mode of transportation was hitchhiking. I hitchhiked everywhere, sometimes multiple times a day. One day I was hitchhiking from Victorville to Apple Valley. Victorville is a town pretty much within throwing distance from Apple Valley. A brown car stopped to give me a ride. It was a large car. I can't remember the make and model, but it was about the size of a Cadillac, pretty much the same shape and size. Driving the car was a little old lady with graying, dark hair. She was probably in her 50s, real small in stature. There was a man in the passenger seat. He had short black hair, clean shaven, white button up shirt, and brown slacks. In the back seat on the driver's side was a small girl. She was about 5 or 6 years old, I would guess. She was in a bonnet and a dress with little black shoes on. In my mind, she was dressed kind of like an Amish or Quaker would have been dressed. She watched me wide eyed but silent as I got into the car. I had a weird feeling and butterflies in my stomach as I got in. I paid no mind to it at first, but the adults in the front had given each other a strange glance as I sat down and said hello. They asked me where I was going, and I told them. The little old lady pulled into traffic and continued down the road in the direction we needed to go. They were both pretty quiet as she drove. I glanced at the little girl, who was still wide eyed and staring at me silently. Something about the atmosphere in the car made me very apprehensive, so I started general small talk to kind of get a feel of these people. I don't remember the exact conversation, but something the man said really put me off. So I said, "Hey, you know what? I have a friend that lives just about a block from here. Go ahead and pull over. I think I'm going to go visit him instead." I didn't know anyone near where we were at the time, but I wanted the hell out of that car. They gave each other a look again, but said nothing. And the little old lady just continued driving. Now, having been homeless at the time, at that age, I had run into some other hairy situations and had long decided to keep myself armed. I didn't have a firearm with me, but I did acquire one not long after this. But I was carrying a 4-inch buck knife that I could open with one hand with just a flick of my wrist. I glanced at the little girl whose expression still hadn't changed. The man in the passenger seat said something like, "We are already driving you where you said, and it's still a few miles yet. Just take the ride since you're already here." I said, "No, I don't think so. I want to get out here." As I said this, I slowly pulled my buck knife out. Surprisingly, I wasn't afraid, but I was very, very apprehensive. trying to think of a way out of the situation. I couldn't just jump out of the car at the speed we were traveling without being badly injured. The only thing I could think of doing was to open my knife, which I did with a hard flick of my wrist. The sound was loud, audible, and I think unmistakable. I said as manly and threateningly as possible, "You had better drop me off now or this is going to get ugly." I did have an advantage being behind the man in the back seat, and I seriously would have stabbed him should they not pull over. It was weird. They gave each other another look without saying a word. Then the little old lady pulled over, miles past where I had first said I wanted out. I opened the door, and as I was stepping out, I looked back at the little girl. My heart tugged at me to grab her and run because I had such a terrible feeling about these people. But I didn't. I left her there. As I stood up and slammed the door, I said, "Fuck you," to the man through his open window. He just looked at me with a blank expression and said, "Today is your lucky day." Then they drove off. I just watched as they drove away. I never saw them again, but I do believe what he said to me. That was my lucky day. Well, everyone, that's it. That's a true story from my youth, believe it or not. And I think about that little girl every now and then, and I wonder how she's doing. Kind of, well, I really do hope that she pulled out of that. And I hope that they weren't as bad as the feeling I got about them. Anyway, like, subscribe, and share. And make sure you fill out the comments section. Let me know what you think, okay? Everyone, take care. I'll see you in the next video.